James Harrison sat alone on the frozen bench, watching the Christmas lights flicker above the empty street. 48 years old, CEO of a major investment firm, and completely alone on Christmas Eve. The irony wasn't lost on him. He'd spent 20 years building an empire, sacrificing everything for success. His marriage had crumbled 5 years ago. His ex-wife had remarried and moved to California. No children, no family, just board meetings, profit margins, and an empty penthouse that cost more than most people earn in a lifetime. The snow fell gently around him as shopkeepers closed their doors for the holiday. Everyone had somewhere to be. Everyone except him. That's when he heard them. 3 voices, young and bright, cutting through the winter silence. "There he is," one whispered. "Are you sure?" another asked nervously. "Mama said to trust our hearts," the third replied. James turned to see 3 little girls, no more than 7 years old, identical in every way. Triplets. They wore matching pink winter coats and knit hats with pom-poms, their cheeks flushed from the cold. One carried a handmade card decorated with colorful hearts. "Excuse me, mister," the girl in the middle said, stepping forward bravely. "We made this for you." James stared at them, confused. "I think you have the wrong person, sweetheart. I don't know you." "We know," said the girl on the left. "But we've been watching you from Mama's bakery across the street. You've been sitting here every night this week, looking so sad. Nobody should be sad at Christmas." The third girl nodded seriously. "Mama says that loneliness is the heaviest burden anyone can carry. She says even strangers deserve kindness, especially at Christmas." James felt something crack inside his chest. These children, these complete strangers, had noticed him. In a city of millions, where he felt invisible despite his wealth and power, 3 little girls had seen his pain. He took the card with trembling hands. On the front, they'd drawn a man sitting on a bench under twinkling lights. Inside, in careful crayon letters, it read, "You are not alone. Love doesn't need a reason. Merry Christmas from Sophie, Grace, and Hannah. Your mother taught you well." James managed, his voice thick with emotion. "She's the best mama in the world," Sophie said proudly. "She owns a bakery. She makes bread for people who can't afford to buy it. She says that's what love looks like. Feeding people, seeing people, remembering that everyone has a story." James looked past them to the small bakery across the street. Through the frosted window, he could see a woman in her early 40s, blonde hair pulled back, arranging the last of the day's pastries. She glanced out, met his eyes, and offered a gentle smile that held no judgment, only understanding. "Will you come have hot chocolate with us?" Grace asked. "Mama always makes extra on Christmas Eve. She says you never know who might need warming up." Something in James broke open. The armor he'd built around his heart, the walls that had kept him safe and successful and utterly alone, crumbled under the weight of such simple, genuine kindness. "I'd like that very much," he whispered. The girls each took one of his hands, and Hannah kept the other on his arm, and together they walked across the snowy street. When they entered the bakery, warmth enveloped him, not just from the ovens, but from something deeper, something he'd forgotten existed. "Welcome," the woman said, extending her hand. "I'm Catherine. I hope my girls didn't startle you. They have big hearts and no sense of boundaries. They have what the world needs more of." James replied, "I'm James, and I think they might have just saved my life." Catherine's eyes, warm and knowing, held his. "Then I'm glad they followed their instincts. Sit, please. You look like you could use more than just hot chocolate." Over the next hours, James learned their story. Catherine's husband had died 3 years ago from a sudden heart attack. She'd taken his small savings and opened this bakery, raising triplets alone while serving a community that couldn't always pay. She baked bread at dawn, tutored neighborhood kids in the afternoon, and somehow still had energy to teach her daughters that wealth wasn't measured in money, but in moments of connection. I used to be someone very different. James found himself confessing as the girls colored at a nearby table. I thought success meant corner offices and stock options. I climbed and climbed, and when I reached the top, I realized I left behind everything that mattered. Now I have everything and nothing at the same time. Catherine refilled his mug. It's never too late to climb back down and start building something real. My husband used to say that life gives us two chances, once when we're young and don't know better, and once when we're older and finally understand what matters. You're in your second chance right now. The girls insisted James help them frost Christmas cookies. They taught him their secret technique. Lots of sprinkles and even more laughter. They asked him questions about his life. Genuinely curious, never judging the loneliness he described. You could come back tomorrow, Sophie suggested as midnight approached. We always have too much food on Christmas. Mama invites everyone who has nowhere else to go. James looked at Catherine, who nodded. There's always room at our table. Always. He returned Christmas morning with his arms full of gifts, but the girls were more excited about teaching him their favorite board game. They didn't care about his expensive presents. They cared that he showed up, that he laughed at their jokes, that he listened to their stories. Over the following months, James became part of their lives. He helped Catherine repair the bakery's aging oven. He set up a scholarship fund for neighborhood children. He started leaving the office at 5 instead of 9, trading client dinners for homework help and bedtime stories. One spring evening, as he and Catherine watched the triplets play in the small park behind the bakery, he finally said what had been growing in his heart since that snowy Christmas Eve. I spent half my life chasing the wrong things. I thought I knew what success looked like. Then 3 little girls handed me a card and reminded me what it means to be human, to be seen, to be valued, not for what you own, but for who you are. Catherine took his hand. They saw something in you that you'd forgotten was there. Sometimes we need children to remind us how to love without conditions, how to offer kindness without expecting returns. I want to be part of this, James said quietly. Part of your family. If you'll have me, not because I'm trying to fill an empty space, but because you've all taught me what it means to be truly wealthy, in love, in purpose, in connection. Catherine smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. We've been waiting for you to realize you already belong. A year later, James stood in that same snowy street, now decorated for another Christmas. But this time, he wasn't alone. Catherine was beside him, his wife now, and 3 giggling girls danced around them, excited to hang the newest ornament on the bakery's Christmas tree, a tiny bench with a small figure sitting on it, holding a handmade card. So we never forget, Hannah explained, that love finds us when we're brave enough to see each other. James pulled them all close, his heart finally, completely full. He'd learned the hardest lesson life offers, that success without connection is just